Welcome to SRG Insights, where we answer your questions about sales, sales management, and sales training. Today, I'd like to talk to you about turning your sales force into a learning force. And to start with, really getting into the idea of how is sales changing? Why is this even necessary? We've all heard that customers are more sophisticated today than ever. The buyers are further along in the sales process, they're more informed, they're more educated, and they have access to more options than ever before. On top of that, there's information overload. They're trying to find out what to do, where to start, where do I get the information I need to make decisions? And they're bombarded with a wealth of information that's sometimes very confusing. In addition, there's more collaboration involved in the typical sale. We know that there are more buyers involved, more stakeholders who are influencing those deals. And in fact, we have more sellers. Often we have sales engineers and architects and product managers involved in collaborating to close a deal. So it's gotten more complex from that standpoint. And finally, we're asking our salespeople to deliver more insights, really to cut through that noise and to be more educated, be more consultative, and really engage the stakeholders with meaningful insights that they can use. You take all of that, and then on top of that, you put the technology stack, technology tools, artificial intelligence, and a number of things that make it even sometimes more difficult for the salesperson to do their job. So what does this mean? It means that to be successful going forward, the salesperson and sales team need to be even more agile, more nimble, and they're really going to need to become great learners and great teachers to be able to adapt and change to that changing environment. So how does sales training need to change to respond to this complexity in the marketplace? Well, sales training needs to become even more nimble and consume closer to the point of need. Once-a-year workshops and sales kickoffs are no longer going to satisfy that need. And in fact, these have been failing for years, but nobody has really wanted to admit it. Productivity and quota attainment have remained flat despite huge investments in training and technology. So we need to respond to this need. And that means that training needs to become more engaging, more entertaining, and even more relevant. Participants will make a judgment quickly as to whether or not it's going to help them. And so we need to make it very pointed and very specific and helpful to the problems they're facing. Training needs to be offered as a blended program with multiple options. That's instructor-led and video, resources, practical applications, and cohorts where they can engage with their peers. Learners have different learning styles, and we need to accommodate those. We've developed a blended program that is proving to be very successful using these types of techniques. So specifically having videos that break the content down into small chunks, making it easy to consume and digest, providing field work and challenges that allow them to go on missions and apply those skills to real life situations, providing cohort groups and sessions where they can engage socially with their peers, gain insights from each other, and collaborate. And then providing tools for the managers to be able to coach and reinforce those skills, and being able to review and accommodate those skills within their weekly meetings and ongoing one-on-ones. And then finally, providing a way to gamify or provide certifications where they're working towards an accomplishment. They're working towards a goal. It's both the carrot and the stick. So we're giving them a carrot of something to work towards, and also some accountability of something to work towards that we can measure and see if completion has happened. So what do the salespeople need to do to adapt and change to this mindset? We want to encourage them to start thinking like lifelong sales learners. So that what's in it for them is better productivity, better quota attainment, and better engagement with their customers. We want them to learn to assess their own skills and take ownership of their development and be able to essentially coach themselves. So asking the questions after a sales call, even when their manager isn't there, what 2 or 3 things could I do to become even more valuable? What takeaways can I apply based on my learnings from this experience? Salespeople should always be improving their skills, much like a high-performing athlete always knows those 2 or 3 things that they're working on that's going to improve their performance in the game. So we can break this down and provide them recognition, provide them skills, and points that they can improve as they go forward. Stephen Covey talks about highly successful people take time to sharpen the saw. And we need to encourage our sales professionals to enable themselves to see the skills they need to understand. And we need to help them understand how to sharpen the saw, give them the tools and the time to be able to sharpen the saw, and then apply that to their own skills going forward. Thank you.